Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Welcome everyone to the January meeting of the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Please rise while Supervisor Hyde leads us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will read the roll.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer? Here. Mr. Loeb?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Ms. Frazier? Here. Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Ms. Hogan? Here. Mr. Dickinson?
Standing.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Mr. Sokol?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Hyde?
Here.
Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairman Conover?
Here. You should all have received the minutes of our December 21st board meeting and the January 4th organizational meeting. Can we take these together?
Yes, you can.
Chair will entertain a motion regarding the minutes. Mr. Sokol on the motion, second. Mr. Driscoll on the second. Mr. Driscoll on the second. Discussion. We're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes of December 21 and January 4th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Report of the chairman. On January 4th, of course, we had our organizational meeting. I was involved in the preparation of committee lists and chairs, and I hope everyone is satisfied with their appointments and chairs. And if you need any adjustments, please don't hesitate to see us. In fact, there is a resolution today regarding Public Works to take that committee, what is it, from 9 to 11? From 9 to 11, and to fill those seats accordingly. At the same time, of course, I delivered the state of the county. One of the items in the state of the county that I'm particularly interested in is the assessment of infrastructure needs throughout the county, and to develop the development of a strategy or plan going forward to help communities address those needs. And we will be moving forward with that here shortly. Also, I would like to just take a moment to thank the staff and those that brought food for preparing the lunch for our organizational meeting. It's nice afterwards to sit down and break bread, and chit-chat, and it's just a nice touch to our organizational meeting. And so to the staff and to those that brought food, thank you very much for extending yourselves. On January 9th, I attended the AGFTC transportation meeting at Crandall Library, where the work plan for 2019 was presented. On January 10, I attended the Lake George, Lake Champlain Regional Planning Board meeting. I believe there continues to be very good progress in the development of that organization. And also, I'd like to thank Dave O'Brien and Beth Giles for putting together a presentation on the Boundary Grant Program that we are now eligible to participate in. A number of supervisors, a few supervisors were there for that presentation. There were state representatives at the meeting as well to answer any questions that folks might have. Did Beth put that online? Do we know?
I don't know, but I can check.
We'll check to see if that has been put online at the regional board, and if we can put it online here as well. It's just an outline of the program, what's eligible, how to go about applying, that kind of thing. Mr. Dickinson.
I'd just like to emphasize that Dave O'Brien, supervisor from Washington County, has done a stellar job. He's put in an awful lot of time and effort in this, and he's talked to a lot of people, and he's traveled, and he's really done a great job with this program and really turned the whole organization around. He really deserves a real round of thanks.
Thank you. On January 16th, of course, we held the special meeting where we approved the home rule message for the mortgage tax that has been delivered to Albany, and we'll be taking that up at our meeting on the 31st.
Yes.
On the 31st. The workshop, I thought, was extremely well attended. I was very happy to see the turnout. Great presentation and work by our county administrator. Going forward, we're planning additional workshops out and about the county with our business community, with our chambers, et cetera. So if any of you have any ideas or in that regard, please don't hesitate to mention them either to Ryan or myself. And so we will try to build a big boat in this regard. And that brings us to today. Thank you. That's my report. Report of committees. Supervisor Hyde.
No report.
Supervisor Garrity.
No report.
Supervisor Lega.
No report, but with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Director of Office of Emergency Services to come up and speak about the upcoming weather.
Very good. Brian Fleur, without objection. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. I put on each of your desks a copy of this morning's update from the National Weather Service. I know you all can get your weather from a lot of different places. This happens to be one of the scenarios that we use on a daily basis. We get this twice a day. I just wanted you to take a peek at it and see what we're looking at for this weekend. It is going to be interesting, and I send this out to all the fire and EMS folks on a regular basis, depending on how drastic it is, maybe once a day, maybe twice a day, maybe not for a couple days. If anyone is interested in receiving this, I'll be glad to put you on the email list, and you can get this from my office. The second item, if you'll probably see a little bit of activity if you're over in the Route 418 area. We will be using a drone today to fly the ice scenario that we have over there. We've been watching that for the last 4 days, and we do have quite a bit of accumulation, and we want to have a starting line of the photography of everything that is there now. Once we get 12 to 24 inches of snow on top of it, it'll be very hard to see what's actually going on. So I just want to let you know that those things are happening, and if you need anything, let me know.
Any questions, Mr. Dickinson?
Brian, where'd you say you're getting this weather report from?
This comes from the National Weather Service.
Okay.
We will be having a conference call with them at 2 o'clock today. They call that whenever there's a major event approaching. We'll be dealing with that, and I know there's also
11 o'clock call.
there's also, you got 11 o'clock one?
There's one at 11 with the governor's office.
There's one,
Changed to 3.
that's been changed to 3, yeah. There's also one for legislators, which is at 3 through the governor's office.
Is that a drone we have, or you contract that out?
We're using DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation.
Yeah.
They have very good programs.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Supervisor Diamond.
No reports.
Supervisor McDevitt.
Yes, just very briefly, maybe something that ties to job creation and why people want to live in Warren County. But in yesterday's paper, it talked about Lake George, and we all recognize the importance of the quality of our lake. But and it really points to, I think, the importance of smart people, motivated people in terms of protecting the purity of our lake. But IBM, as most people know, they have something called the Jefferson Project, and it's a water quality monitoring system. And they've patented an intelligent system that could be used to identify, characterize, and monitor vertical temperature profiles and ingredients which affect marine life in lakes and other aquatic ecosystems. Basically, Lake George and Skinny Atlas Lake in Onondaga County are the only two communities that are actually doing this. But again, I'd like to point out that the reason companies move to areas like Warren County and will in the future is because I think they would prefer to deal with communities that are using smart technology and dealing with smart people. And then in today's newspaper, this is something that I would like to see implemented in Warren County. But Jeff Flagg, that has done an awful lot of work in the city as it relates to environmental efforts, wrote a letter to the editor. But two communities in Warren County, one being the city of Glens Falls, one being the town of Queensbury, they've established sustainability committees, and they've both been certified as clean energy communities by NYSERDA. And these have been earned by pursuing actions that lower our respective carbon footprints. The city's received a SMART grant award of $43,500, and the city of the town of Queensbury has recently received an award. And basically, the city, as well as the county, as well as the town, they're pursuing converting their streetlights to LED or procuring significant amounts of its energy from regional hydro facilities. But I think going forward, and maybe Claudia's environmental committee could possibly consider this, but I would think here in Warren County, maybe we ought to consider a sustainability committee, in terms of attempting to show some defined progress in terms of weaning off of carbon-based fuel sources. So, that being said,
I'm sure Chairman Bramer heard you.
It wouldn't take much on this issue. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Supervisor Bramer.
Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Dickinson.
I'd like to make a comment on Peter's report, which is true and accurate. The thing that they've asked for patents on are the orange platforms. If you've been on Lake George, you see occasionally around the lake. I think there's 7 of them. And they have all this equipment on, and they generate all this information on the water profile and the air and the rainfall. They're really interesting, and they've done a great job with them. Obviously, they've done a great job with them. The second point is that we, the SAVE Committee, got a request from Skinny Atlas to come and talk to us about our program. And it was at that program that the Fund for Lake George and their two partners, IBM and RPI, discussed with them the possibility at their request to actually extend this program we have here to them. So we are going down soon and look at what they have down there. And see if we can help.
This is anything you read about it, it's a world-class system. So as we speak, we're setting the standard, I think, for hopefully clean water in the world. So a lot of good people in our area are to be credited with having the foresight to put that together.
Well, you said it properly. Warren County is setting the standard in a lot of things, environmental. Thank you.
Supervisor Bramer.
Yes. Well, I wanted to thank you, Chairman Conover, for appointing me to chair the Environmental Concerns Committee. It is doing exciting work, and I thank you, Supervisor Dickinson, for your prior work in that committee and leading Warren County. And I think that Supervisor McDevitt's comment is well taken, that we should form a sustainability committee so that we have some more structure around the good work that we're already doing. And I do want to note that we are meeting on January 22nd, and at Supervisor Simpson's suggestion, we'll be having the Adirondack Lake Alliance come to speak to us. So if you're interested in that, please come to our committee meeting that day. Thank you.
And in that regard, if Peter, if you and Claudia and anyone else that's interested could put your ideas down on the Sustainability Committee, get them to Amanda and Brian, and then I'll take a look at it. And if we have to formalize it per our rules, I'll be happy to look at that.
Well, thank you for that, Jim.
Supervisor Loeb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. No report.
Supervisor Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report.
Supervisor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's the shortest report I'm ever going to give. I don't have one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for appointing me to lead the Cooperative Extension Group. I'm appreciative.
My pleasure.
The Cornell Cooperative Extension welcomed a couple of new members to their board at their organizational meeting on January 5th. Dr. Seeley outlined several exciting initiatives that the CCE is doing. There's a calendar at your place. Please make sure you post this somewhere visible in your community so people can see what exciting things are happening there. One of the most exciting is the Farm to School initiative, for which they received a pretty big grant. 5 schools will be involved in that this year. I'm excited to see that move forward. It was a true team effort by Cornell Cooperative Extension, and I think they're to be commended for their efforts to bring this to our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson.
As the cat in the hat so eloquently said, I got nothing.
Supervisor Merlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tourism didn't meet, so I have no report, but we will be meeting at 11:30 next Friday on the 25th. And the only comment I have, I want to thank the chairman for having that meeting Wednesday, and thank Ryan for well displayed this program. And I'm just questioning, you just said you're going to meet with chambers and business leaders.
Well, it'll be announced. Everyone will know what meetings
That's
were.
why, that was my question. Are we going to have another meeting? Keep this thing going, and let's see if we can solve something before the months pass. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Supervisor Stroud.
No committee report, but I want to second what Supervisor McDevitt said and Supervisor Bramer, that we could go to the next step. I mean, do we have any electric cars?
We do have hybrid cars. They're not electric yet.
Yeah, well, and that's a good move, but I think that what they're pointing out is that we could be doing more. And I also agree with Supervisor Dickinson about Dave O'Brien, fantastic person. And I do agree with Mr. Dickinson about the efforts that the county has done for its lake water quality, and that deserves a pat on the back. I agree with you on that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
It's lovely to see the communication. Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report.
Supervisor Beatty.
I'm going to apologize for my voice because I've got a little laryngitis, but no report. But I think the most important person we probably need to thank because of the new direction of the Lake George Lake Champlain Regional Planning Board is Travis Whitehead. If it wasn't for Mr. Whitehead unraveling the total chaos that was happening up there and the sham that was going on, the director would not have resigned. The questionable loans would not have come to light. And I'm sure we're all looking forward to seeing the controller's report about the Lake George Lake Champlain Regional Planning Board. I'm glad we're finally cleaning it up. Obviously, it was much past due. And again, without Mr. Whitehead digging in and finding out the abuses, we'd still be going on business as usual. So I'd like to give him a shout out. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report.
Supervisor Sokol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance did not meet, therefore we have no report, and our esteemed treasurer does not have any comments today either, so thank you.
Incredible. Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First thing is an announcement. Soil and Water is going to conduct farm talks tonight at the DEC building in Warrensburg, and begins at 6 p.m. You do need to pre-register. Sorry for the short notice, but tonight's meeting is about growing berries in your backyard, etc. Secondly, I'd just like to mention the sales tax. Got the final numbers for 2018, and it's good to see that we're almost $4 million over what we budgeted for 2018. So that's great. Should be great news for everybody in the room.
Thank you, Supervisor Thomas. That is good news. Report of the county attorney.
I have no report, thank you.
Report of the county administrator.
As always, I'd like to recognize individuals who celebrated significant employment milestones this month. Former Supervisor Lou Tessier, who serves as an election inspector for BOE, started for the county 35 years ago. Also celebrating 35 years as Communications Supervisor Larry Jeffords with the Sheriff's Department. Colleen Mosher at DSS has been with the county 30 years, and Betsy Henkel in DPW has been with us for 20. Congratulations to everyone, and many thanks for your hard work and dedication. As the board knows, we launched our Employee of the Month program a couple of weeks ago. Nominations are coming in, and I look forward to highlighting our employees for things other than just longevity in the months to come. One housekeeping item for today's meeting, the chairman already alluded to it, is the final resolution that's on today's agenda. You'll recall that at the December 21st board meeting, we set a public hearing on the mortgage tax extender local law for today, but we need to change that to Thursday, January 31st at 9:30 a.m. This will be another special meeting of the Board of Supervisors, and pending public comments, we will also entertain the adoption of the local law at that meeting. The reason for the change is due to one of our official publications not being able to advertise the hearing within the required time frame, and this happened because of a miscommunication over the holidays. The good news is that our home rule request is on track. The forms went down to Albany yesterday, and we're hoping for passage of the legislation before the end of January, and this would put us on track to hopefully begin collecting again by March 1st. Normally at this time, I'd report my activities since the last board meeting, but I'm going to defer that because I've been asked to provide the board with a complete assessment of how the federal government shutdown is affecting our county departments and their programs. So I'd like to do that now. The basics. Today is the 28th day of the shutdown. It's the longest shutdown since 1995. That shutdown lasted for 21 days. It's important to note that this is not a total shutdown, and it's not as severe as some past shutdowns. And that's because several important federal departments that cover our programs are currently covered by appropriations that were already enacted before December 22nd. These departments include Education, Energy, Defense, Health and Human Services, Labor, and Veterans Affairs. And as a result, programs like HEAP, which is the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, and CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program, they've been affected by prior shutdowns. They're not affected by this one. The largest federal departments that are currently not funded are Agriculture, Commerce, Homeland Security, Interior, Transportation, and HUD. Major programs like Medicaid, which are considered mandatory and account for 2/3 of federal grants to states, are generally not affected by a shutdown, and the federal shares for Medicaid are currently approved through September, which is good news. In terms of employment, there's approximately 35,000 New York State residents who work for the federal agencies that have enacted appropriations, and another 16,700, approximately 32% of the overall total, that are in agencies without appropriations. And those individuals may begin filing for unemployment. I did check with our Employment and Training Director, Chris Hunsinger, and he reports that there does not yet appear to be an uptick in unemployment applications here in Warren County. The overall state of the economy could also be an issue, considering the important role that sales tax plays here. S&P Global Ratings estimates that a protracted shutdown could reduce real GDP by $1.2 billion per week. That's out of a total GDP of 20.6 trillion, just to give you a sense of scale. Other than that, I've consulted all of our department heads and would like to report the following specifics. First of all, for DSS, the major concern has been the SNAP program. That stands for Supplemental Nutritional Assistance, used to be called food stamps. This program is only funded through the end of January. The state, however, directed social service districts to recertify any eligible clients early for their February benefit. And under the authority of the most recent continuing budget resolution in Washington, that'll allow us to stretch federal funding for one more month into February. So clients recertified before this past Tuesday, the 15th, should have begun receiving their February benefit on their EBT cards yesterday. If you have clients, if you have constituents that are in this situation, it's important for them to know that this is not extra money for January. The amount that just went onto their card is their entire February allocation, so budget wisely. There also may still be time for your constituents to recertify if they haven't done so already. They should either do so at DSS in person or online at www.mybenefits.ny.gov. And I would just like to take this opportunity to commend our DSS staff and Commissioner Chris Hanchett for their hard work in meeting these new recertification deadlines. Warren County has about $745,000 in SNAP benefits monthly. We serve over 3,600 households. That's 6,300 individuals. And the challenge was making sure that all of them knew about the early deadlines. So the staff worked overtime reaching out to clients to help them complete their applications. And the DSS leadership worked with community organizations, including Community Action and Open Door, to get the word out. As a result, we're confident that nearly all of our residents who qualify for SNAP will receive their February benefit. Now, in the terms of the future, as of March, the state has indicated that they may be able to borrow from the EAF program. That stands for Emergency Assistance to Families. But this is a work in progress. We don't know for sure whether that'll happen, assuming, again, that the shutdown continues into March. DSS is going to keep a close eye on this situation. They'll report back to me, this board, and SNAP clients when more information is available about the March benefit. The other DSS program that is not funded past January is TANF, Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. This is half of what used to be called welfare, the other half being safety net. This funds cash benefits, child care, youth employment, among other programs. The state has more flexibility here than they do with SNAP, which is good news. And this program currently has enough funding for 3 months. Going over to Veteran Services, the VA is currently funded, so most activities of this department are not affected. According to Director DiResta, the biggest impact comes with the closure of the National Archives, and that limits our ability to gather documentation that veterans need for such things as applications for their tax exemptions, property tax exemptions. The DD Form 214 is required for a lot of the benefits that our veterans receive. The normal turnaround time for a DD 2014 request is 8 to 10 weeks. So number one, pending requests that are already in the National Archives are stalled as long as the archives are closed. And the shutdown may create a backlog when the government does open back up, so that 8 to 10 weeks could go a little bit longer. But Denise will keep me posted on this. And I am glad to say and want to congratulate the Veteran Services Department for helping their clients who are SNAP clients as well learn about the new information for February and make sure that those veterans were recertified if they were eligible. Health Services, funding for the WIC program, that's the Supplemental Nutritional Program for Women, Infants, and Children. That is affected by the shutdown, but the impact varies from state to state based on how the states administer the program. New York State does have sufficient WIC reserves to keep the program running for at least 2 months. WIC was on site this past week, and they did not advise us of a problem, and neither did NYSHO, which is the State Association of County Health Officials, which monitors these issues. Office for the Aging, they're federally funded programs. The majority of them are funded through Title III of the Older Americans Act, and these programs are funded either through HHS or DOL. Both of those agencies are open, so as such, there's currently no impact on those programs. Likewise, employment and training, we get our funding through the Department of Labor, so our programs, including workforce development for adults, youth, displaced workers, all unaffected at this point, not affected. DPW Superintendent Kevin Hajos is monitoring two areas, which are the FAA and the Federal Highway Administration grants. A prolonged shutdown could impact the receipt of such grants, but at this time, we're okay. If there did come a point in time where we needed a grant application approved or federal reimbursement pre-approved for a project where we would have to lay out county money and there was nobody available to do that, it would be a problem. But again, we don't have anything like that on the horizon. State highway departments also should be okay for a period of time because they're largely reliant on the Federal Highway Trust Fund. That's funded by federal gasoline taxes. And the most recent federal continuing budget resolution authorized the release of the first quarter of 2019 trust fund allocations. Emergency Services Director LaFleur states that the National Weather Service is on a skeleton crew, which could adversely affect us in the event of a natural disaster. Otherwise, federal training programs in fire, EMS, and emergency management may be delayed, and some online research tools, such as the FCC, are not being maintained. And finally, the district attorney has indicated that the State Office of Victim Services does not anticipate any funding issues with fulfilling current obligations or disbursements of compensation claims for crime victims. So that's good news. That's all I have in terms of the shutdown. As you know, the governor's proposed state budget was released this week, and I'll be reviewing that and providing you all with information on the aspects that affect this county. And that concludes my report.
Excellent report. Any questions for the county administrator? There being none, we will move on. Reading of communications.
Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. Financial Report dated October 31 and November 30, 2018. Warren County Probation Department Report of Criminal and Family Workloads for October and November 2018. Letter from Gerald Delaney introducing himself as the new director of the Adirondack Park Local Government Review Board following the retirement of Fred Monroe. Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Court November payment in the amount of $3,338. Town of Stony Creek Resolution Number 30 of 2019 designating Frank Thomas as Town of Stony Creek's representative on the Warren County Youth Board. Orange County Legislature Resolution Number 330 of 2018 calling for New York State legislative action to classify as controlled substances certain fentanyl analogs that are responsible for opioid overdose deaths. Adirondack Park Agency final supplemental environmental impact statement for amendments to the Adirondack Park State Land Master Plan involving travel corridors, and Warren, Washington County IDA and CDA 2019 final budgets.
Thank you. Reading of resolutions.
Proposed resolution numbers 5 through 21 were mailed to the Board of Supervisors and posted to the Warren County website last week. There are no additional resolutions to be brought to the floor, but I would like to note that a correction was made to the certificate of appointment naming members of the Warren County Youth Board after it was mailed. A change was made to add Mr. Thomas as representative pursuant to the resolution provided by the town of Stony Creek requesting same. No action is required in relation to this change as it is an appointment by the chairman of the board.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience here to address the board regarding any resolutions presently before the board? There being no one, discussion on resolutions. Supervisor Sokol.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, could I get a roll call vote on resolution number 11, please?
Roll call on number 11. Any other roll calls?
I have a question.
Supervisor Garrity.
Resolution number 20, the rules. If you go to voting members in Part D, number 7, has it always been 2/3 for the oxy tax guidelines? 2/3 vote to approve it? Yes? Okay.
Any other discussion on any of the resolutions? Then I will close discussion on resolutions and we will vote on resolutions.
Okay, resolution number 11, appointing members to the Lake Champlain Lake George Regional Planning Board. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 20, altering standing rules of the board. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson? Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes. Collective on the rest, do we need a motion for that as well? Motion in? No. Collective on the rest, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there anyone here in the audience wishing to address the board on any subject? There being no one, announcements. Supervisor Bramer.
I will hopefully remember to remind everyone again, but we have our pond hockey tournament in Crandall Park on February 2nd and 3rd. It's the first year of this, and it should be really exciting. They're already getting the ponds ready. So come out. If you don't have a team registered, come out and watch.
Yeah.
What's that? What's the date on that?
February 2nd.
February 2nd. Supervisor
Mr. Chairman.
Beatty.
I'd like to add that I think the naming of the rinks, you're going to have 6 rinks, and naming one after a former local great guy, Dave Strader, is very admirable, and it tells me that you guys put a lot of thought into even naming of the rinks, and so I just want to say thanks for doing that.
Any other announcements? Supervisor Garrity.
Yeah, again, the Winter Carnival is having their snowcross snowmobile races at the fairgrounds, so if any of you have excess amounts of snow that you want to get rid of next week, truck it up to get a hold of Kevin Hajos. They may have to stockpile some snow at the fairgrounds in Warrensburg. But seriously, if you do have excess snow and you're looking for a home, just truck it up there to the fairgrounds and they'll stockpile and build their jumps.
Good.
We were thinking of, they've already contacted us about doing it. It looks like the forecast may be saved, so I just point that out.
Any other announcements? Supervisor Simpson.
Okay, to the backup batter here, or cleanup guy, we got the Barney Barnhart Fishing Derby next weekend, next Saturday on Brant Lake. Please come and fish. It's a great time, a lot of people.
You're not
I want
throwing
to see you there.
You're not throwing any more skillets or anything
No,
like that?
not yet.
Not yet, okay, because I knew
Greg
you were,
probably
daughter
has
out
the
there.
I knew
date
you
on
were
it.
injured at one point throwing one of those. All right, Chair, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then. Supervisor Dickinson, Supervisor Simpson on the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Public Affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.